Hail, hail, and welcome to the HomeBhoys live phone-in show here. 15 minutes late as usual on Tuesday, October the 29th. Tonight's show is a wee bit different. Normally we make these into HomeBhoys special sort of extra podcast, but tonight's a bit different. But we have a guest with us. But first off, we'll go through the motions for anybody that doesn't know. Okay, I of course am Joe McKenna sitting here in the freezing North County Dublin. You can contact us tonight. Right, you can call in by using Skype. Okay, if you haven't got Skype, get out of your cave because you should have Skype. Download it and put it on your computer. Look for us, HomeBhoys, on Skype, or you can send us on Twitter, messages on Twitter at HomeBhoys, or you can go onto the chat room here on the Spreaker page where you listen to it live. What else? Oh, there's a phone number. There's also a phone number. Our HomeBhoys phone number, which you can ring from your landline or a mobile or a car phone. Nobody has a car phone anymore, do they? That was a 80s thing, was it? HomeBhoys telephone number is a Glasgow number. It's 01413 567 327, and that's going to cost you the price of a local Glasgow landline call. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm Joe McKenna again. I am joined this week by, well, Harper's not with us this week. I don't know if he's still suffering from the St. Lawrence's Celtic Supporters Club kind of function on Sunday night, which I have to say it was absolutely smashing, or he's just can't be bothered. That's Harper we're talking about here at the end of the day. So I've been joined by the Green and White Redder. I've been talking there for a little while. He's online. Paul, you there?
Hello.
Paul Larkin.
Hello. I'm here.
And we are joined by the man who has just come back from his solo Great Scottish Rail mobile phone giveaway, Jason Higgins.
How you doing? Enough of that. I'm in pain here.
You're in pain?
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway,
my arm's cut off.
It's terrible, isn't it?
I know.
You know, it's like tell the 90s I said hello. Tonight's show is all geared towards one thing, and we have a guy on the line. We have newly appointed this year Celtic supporters liaison officer, John Paul Taylor. John, are you there, mate?
I am indeed.
And we're going to talk to John tonight about his role, his background, all other things. We're not going to do a lot of football talk because this is kind of, it's very specific to John Paul, and John Paul's going to take some calls later on. We're going to have a chat. So John Paul, for people who don't know necessarily who you are, and a lot of people do know who you are, can you give us a bit of background kind of on yourself and your associate connection to the club? Obviously you're a supporter, but I mean further into that, into what led you to have the role now of supporters liaison officer.
Yeah, I mean, I joined the club initially in 1993. I was working for Ladbrokes at the time as a betting shop manager in the centre of Glasgow, and I got the opportunity to go and meet some people at Celtic. At that particular time, they were looking for someone to manage the ticket office, and through a friend, someone thought it might be a good idea to have a word with myself, and I'd gone up and my interviews went particularly well. I met with a woman called Mary McAdam, who was financial controller at the club at the time. It was the days of the old board prior to Fergus coming in and the takeover. So I went in and met Mary, and as I say, she was a lovely woman, and things went well, and I did okay. Well, I must have done okay because I got the job, and I was at Celtic from 1993 until 2008, and at that point I kind of figured I'd done as much as I possibly could in terms of the role that I was in at that particular time, so I decided to go and chase up a few other options, which I did, but I missed being at the club. I missed working at Celtic. I'd been a fan for probably most people just through my whole life. So Celtic meant an awful lot to me, and I don't live too far from Celtic Park either, so Celtic meant a lot to me, and when I left, I missed being part of such a great institution, if you like, and over the course of the summer I kind of kept in touch with a number of people at the club, and I had some dialogue in terms of the new role that was coming up, and they asked if I wanted to interview for it again, and I decided that I did want to interview for it, so I went for a couple of interviews, and fortunately I was successful in getting the job as supporter liaison. So it's quite different to what I did previously. I'm not involved in ticketing anymore, but hopefully my role is to act as a portal into the club for fans from around the world, and hopefully make a difference and make a positive difference to fans. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Well, can you just give us a bit of a breakdown on the road itself? I mean, is this a model that's been tested somewhere else? I mean, is this something that happens throughout European football or world football, or is this kind of not necessarily groundbreaking, but is it a new take on supporter and club interaction?
I think it is for the club because obviously, I mean, the club we obviously recognise there's been a gap in terms of the club and the senior management team and the fans and knowing what fans are looking for. It has been tried in various countries throughout Europe, and I think Germany's been a big model for it. To be honest with you, I think Germany it's proven quite successful in recent years, but it's kind of a different role from what happens. Germany is very much about crowd control and security and safety. We think it's more of a service role, to be honest with you, but we're trying to combine the two. So at the moment, we're kind of just feeling our way. A couple of weeks ago, I was down at Manchester City, Everton, and Liverpool just to see how they manage the role. Every English Premiership club has to have a supporter liaison officer, but they're a bit in the dark as well because they're not all absolutely clear in terms of what the role involves. So each club has got different ideas of what they want their supporter liaison to do. We're starting to get a bit of a clearer role, and we do see it as very much a service role, but equally, there are issues there for supporters at the moment that I think as a fan as well and someone that goes to the games, then I can relate to as well. So, as I say, we're trying to combine the two in terms of safety, security, what happens in the stadium, what happens at away games, as well as making sure that people feel that they've got a voice into the club, that their queries into the club are getting answered. So at the moment, it's very much we're feeling our way through it. And I think after probably the first year, we'll have a better idea what it looks like. But the first 3 months has certainly been an interesting time. There's been a lot of issues, certainly things that I didn't anticipate when I first came into the role. So it's been a steep learning curve as well. But hopefully, as I say, it's making a difference for people.
Okay. Lads, you want to come in there? I mean, I'm the only one talking.
I'll come in. Sorry. So, John Paul, what's been your biggest challenge so far? You alluded to some things that you didn't expect. So, what do you think has been your biggest challenge, or something that you can mention on here?
I think the thing at the moment for me is the level of policing activity that we're seeing at games, home games initially. Although I think we're kind of winning the battle there, if you like, in terms of getting the police to understand what we're looking for at Celtic Park. But away games at the moment are still a wee bit of an issue in the respect that I think the level of policing that we're seeing is disproportionate in terms of the level of criminal activity that takes place. So that's the thing. And to be fair, I never really anticipated a lot of the issues that have kind of arisen through the Offensive Behaviour Act. And I did a podcast the other night and I highlighted this as well. I wasn't overly familiar. I mean, I've been going to football for a number of years, and even when I didn't work at the club, I was still going to the games. But I really wasn't overly familiar with what this Offensive Behaviour Act was all about and how it applies and when it applies. So from that point of view, that's certainly one that's came in that I didn't really anticipate. So that kind of came in a wee bit for left field, and obviously I'm kind of trying to get up to speed on that and just seeing how it relates to us as Celtic fans. Because equally, I mean, I know that it applies to all Celtic fans, so in that respect it applies to me, because I mean, I'm going to games like everyone else on a Saturday, so the law applies to me, and I need to be clear in my own head how it applies.
I think from my point of view, I go most weeks as well, and I take my two kids to the home games. So I sit in the North Upper, and I don't get any issue at all at the football, because obviously I'm in an area where it's nowhere the Green Brigade are or anything like that, and everybody just sits, watches the game. There's no police at all, and even the police standing at the turnstile are pretty pleasant, so I get a positive experience when I go to the home games. But I've actually went into the turnstile round about the Green Brigade area, and the level of policing there is disgusting, to be honest with you, and the way they treat the guys get into those turnstiles. I've seen it for myself, and it's totally alien behaviour to the other side of the ground, and that is the thing that got me. And I actually tweeted the police after the Ajax game, because maybe I'm jumping ahead to whatever we're going to discuss, but I thought the level of policing towards the Ajax supporters, see if that was Aberdeen, Hibs or Motherwell fans that had acted in the way the Ajax fans acted down at the front corner, the police would have waded in and arrested the perpetrators, whatever they were up to, chucking stuff.
Absolutely. But
they just let them away with it. And I found that, I think the police bottled it, to be honest with you.
Well, no, I was just going to say, that's in the aftermath of that, I was just going like, That's hooliganism. See that there? That's
Yeah.
fan hooliganism, right? See what's going on our side of the stadium? That's not. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what stuck into me.
I think it's a good point, and it was raised the other night as well. I mean, obviously, you kind of mentioned other clubs as well, but I think you've got to look at it, from our own fans as well. If our own fans behaved like that at Celtic Park, I don't think they would have seen the leniency that we did. So,
Absolutely.
I think from our point of view, and what I'd said last week was, these issues need to get brought to the table. So we've got a couple of internal meetings at Celtic Park over the next few days where these issues will be discussed, and obviously what we get from that will be fed back to everyone and we'll make it public. But I think the thing is that we need to see even-handedness, so there has to be a level playing field. If we're talking about the Offensive Behaviour Act coming in because the police want to see what they see as even-handedness and a level playing field in terms of the Act across Scotland, then we need to see it at Celtic Park as well. So when people come and tear up our stadium and pull all the seats out, we would be expecting to see some form of punitive action taken.
Exactly.
It hasn't happened for that particular game. So it is something that we'll be discussing over the next couple of days at Celtic Park, and I'm happy to update everyone in terms of what comes out of that. There might be specific reasons why the police chose to act in the way that they did. If there was, I'm not aware of them at the moment, so perhaps someone maybe enlighten me over the next couple of days. I know that there were police officers over from Holland. I know that Ajax had their own security team involved as well to try and keep things under wraps, keep things at bay. But ultimately, we had supporters that had their night spoiled. We had supporters that had their night ruined as a result of the actions and behaviour of Ajax fans. So that's something that we need to look at as a club, and we need to ask, why the action that was taken or the inaction that was taken in the night took place.
Yeah.
I mean, but it comes all the way back around to, I suppose, the Offensive Act Bill. The Offensive Behaviour Bill, whatever the actual official title is. I keep on messing it up. But I mean, are we kind of in a position now because of this bill whereby the police have been, not necessarily or have been given, a reason or a carte blanche to kind of go, okay, well, we can arrest these guys for doing this because it's offensive behaviour in football, right? But that's kind of okay because it's in Scotland. So we can arrest these fans, but these other guys are a different matter altogether because they're proper. There are some proper football hooligans in there,
Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, obviously there'd be specific intelligence that the police would work to. In fairness, I don't think they would bottle it. I think at the end of the day, if they felt they had to go in, they would go in. But there's obviously a reason for the tactics that they adopted on the night. I don't know what they are, but I've no doubt I'll find out over the next couple of days as to why they chose to adopt the strategy that they did. But it did seem quite strange, and to the point that was made earlier, if that was any domestic club or indeed our fans that we created that level of violence, I think we'd have seen a different reaction.
Absolutely, yeah. Paul, you there, mate?
Aye, no, I just wanted to ask John. Obviously, the title that you've got, supporters liaison officer, includes in the question. I mean, how has your relationship been with fans in general since you started, and in particular the kind of different fan groups that you've got to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, Paul. To be fair, personally speaking, I think the relationships have been good. I mean, I know that it's always difficult when you've got the number of fans and you're appealing to the fan base the size that we have. So you're not always going to give answers that people are universally popular. And obviously there have been one or two things that I've had to articulate to people that perhaps they don't like the response. But that comes as part and parcel of the job. I mean, it would be easy to be populist, and I think I've seen examples of that in the city, and particularly in other parts of the city where people have been trying to be populist and tell everybody what they want to hear. But you have to tell people as it is. In terms of the relationship with the groups, a number of the groups were already in existence before I came back to the club, and I had relationships with quite a few of them in my previous role. So I would like to think that the relationships are pretty good. I mean, some of the guys are new groups now, so you've obviously got the Green Brigade now who we meet regularly with as well. And as I say, I would like to think that it is a good relationship, but in many respects, you would probably, we would need them to tell us whether or not they think it's helping them or it's making a difference. But from a personal perspective, I think the relationships are all pretty good and pretty positive. I think they're fairly open. I'm trying to be as open and honest as I possibly can. So I try not to hide anything for anybody. So it would be interesting, in terms of what their feedback was. But from my point of view, it seems to be going okay.
And would that extend to overseas fans? I mean, are you in touch with overseas fans and in their needs, which are clearly different to match-going fans?
It's a fair point, actually. I don't have that much contact with overseas fans. Now and again, through Twitter, pick up some stuff from maybe Australia, North America, Canada, but don't have massive. But yeah, I mean, the role is global, so it really relates to Celtic fans from around the world. I've got a meeting tomorrow, actually, with Tam Donnelly, so Tam obviously represents the North American Federation, so I haven't seen him for a wee while. I'm looking forward to seeing Tam, but yeah, I mean, we'll look and see what we can do for supporters that are based in North America and Canada, and obviously Tam will have a view on that. So we'll have a discussion tomorrow in terms of how we can improve their sort of Celtic experience, if you like.
Cool.
I think everybody, looks at your role really positively. It's something we've chatted on this show countless times about someone being there to connect the fans to the club. So I mean, your role is looked at extremely favourably. Like, everybody thinks it's a really, really great idea. I mean, what is it, do you think, that kind of caused Celtic to go, okay, let's get someone in place who can, essentially get the heartbeat of the fans and figure out, how people are thinking, what ideas are out there, what not necessarily demands, but what people kind of want from the club, sort of, and you know what I mean? I'm blabbling here.
I just think that over the last couple of years, we see there's been a massive change in terms of the economic climate, which has impacted businesses across the world, across Britain, across globally, kind of thing. So, from that point of view, the club are obviously listening a bit more to what fans are telling them, what they want to see at Celtic Park. And you'll have seen this year in terms of the discount for season tickets, the family section, the Kerrydale bar. I think the club want to try and get in tune with the fans as much as they possibly can, on the basis that it's hard. It's a hard environment for us at the moment in terms of sales and getting people to come along to matches and making their match day experience as good as it possibly can be. We're obviously a big club playing in the SPFL, and it's a well-known phrase, a well-used phrase, but there's no disrespect to any other club. But we're the biggest club in Scotland, and it's hard when there's not the level of competition that we might have seen in recent years to try and maintain that interest. So I think the club really have looked at it and they've thought, well, we're trying to bring in new initiatives like the family section, like the Kerrydale bar. What else can we do? And I think that over time, I kind of kept dialogue with a number of people at the club, even though that I'd left. And I think that the thing to point out is that the people that are at the club and the people that run the club, senior management team and whatever, they're all Celtic fans. So they want to do the best thing that they can for Celtic supporters and for the club. And I just think that over time what's happened is that they've maybe kind of looked at it and thought, maybe we need maybe we need someone in there that can sort of bridge the gap between the fans and the club, from a corporate perspective. So they've obviously taken the view that was something that they wanted to do, and through dialogue and through discussions that I've had with them, people obviously put my name forward. And as I said earlier, I went in and had a couple of interviews, and I was asked if it was something I would be interested in. So it naturally was, just because I've got the club at heart. But I think that that's what's driven it. I think that it's all about a desire to try and improve what we offer Celtic supporters in terms of their experiences with the club.
That's good stuff. But obviously we can moan, punters of stuff to moan, but you're right, there's loads of positives for this season. I mean, obviously the main thing is the team in the park. We get sidetracked about discussing everything, but the bottom line is we all just love 11 guys kicking the lumpy leather about wearing the hoops, and winning football games. That's what it boils down to for me. But you're right, the Kerrydale bar was that's brilliant for the fans. The price of the season tickets, the price of the Champions League package for season ticket holders, all that kind of stuff, that's all massive positives for me. And even losing our prize assets, I think most Celtic fans are realists now that we realise that to sell the club to potential suitors to come to us, we need to say to them, look, within a couple of years, this is a good stepping stone for you getting to a bigger league. And it's a shame for us, but unfortunately that's the climate and that's the market that we're operating in Scotland. And if we get a player that's going to turn into a truly world-class player, it's going to be folly to think he's going to be another Henrik Larsson and stay with us for 7-8 years. That's not going to happen. So I don't think we've got any issues with that. But some of the things that's come up here, over the years, we get quite a lot of overseas listeners and quite a few guys from North America and things like that, and they're pretty critical of Celtic, the way they're represented, like in the East Coast and things like that. Like, we'll send a team over, but they won't do much socialising with the fans. There'll be no merchandise for sale outside the stadium, you know. And like when we played Real Madrid in Philadelphia, we had 40,000 to a crowd and 10,000 were Celtic fans. They 10,000, probably every one of them had been to Celtic Park at some stage, whereas the 30,000 Real Madrid fans had probably never seen Madrid or couldn't find it on a map. But outside the ground, there was Real Madrid strips, scarves, everything, and nothing. There was nowhere to buy a Celtic scarf. And I think us getting sponsored by Nike, which is a global brand and things like that, I just think it seems a wee bit amateurish. I don't know what your views are and stuff like that.
I mean, stuff like that's obviously, it's naturally disappointing to hear things like that. And I know that a few years ago when we played Man United stole a march on us as well in terms of giving out the red T-shirts in the US as well. So we just need to be more tuned into things like that. And again, you know, this is a great opportunity for people to put these things forward. And from my perspective, what I'll do is I'll take these things forward and I'll put them up at a level where they're discussed, and we can perhaps find out the reasons why. Maybe it's just a miss. Maybe it's just a miss on our part, and if that's the case, then we have to hold our hands up and say we need to do better. We definitely need to do better when it comes to things like this. But I think that, you know, examples like that, and I've no doubt that there are plenty of examples out there of people who have had disappointing experiences with the club. What we're really kind of trying to say now is, if you're having a bad experience, if something's gone wrong, or if you've made the request for something and you've not had any kind of response at all, tell us about it. Tell me about it, because I will follow it up. I'm not saying I'll always get you the answer that you want, but I will follow it up. And I think that that's what this role kind of gives us that we maybe didn't have before, is that people do have an avenue now that they can go down and say, well, you know what, I'm not happy with that. And I've had recent examples just over the last couple of days where people have highlighted things that haven't gone as well as they should have done, and we'll pick them up and we'll address them for people, and we will make them right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask you there, John, on that is that how much kind of power and scope do you have for Celtic fans at away games? And particularly, I mean, Jason mentioned the policing, you mentioned about disproportionate policing yourself. You know, we're going to away games now and we're getting certs, we're getting, you know, metal detectors, we're getting sniffer dogs. I mean, what is the story behind this, and how much kind of dialogue are the club having with other clubs and the police regarding this?
I think, in terms of influence, Paul, I don't have a massive amount of influence, but what I can do is I can channel supporters' comments back so that people do see it as being a serious issue. Mm-hmm. You know, perhaps in the past, maybe, you know, we would all had our gripes and we would all had our anger in the respect of how we maybe felt things had been going at away games. But what I can do now is I can bring it to the table and say, well, look, you know, I was there, I seen it at Hibs a couple of weeks ago, which I was really, really surprised at, to be honest with you. One of the things, and it was raised by someone on Twitter the other day about the dogs, the sniffer dogs, and I did raise it. What came back to me was that I don't think there are too many sniffer dogs, but ultimately they're there in terms of like the pyros and the smoke bombs and stuff like that. And what the experience is with Police Scotland is that invariably it's the away supporters. Very seldom do the home support let off smoke bombs and stuff at their own stadium. I know we did see it at Tynecastle, but largely it's the away support, and that's why we experienced the sniffer dogs at Partick Thistle and at Hibs, largely because we're the away support in those games. I'd be very surprised if we've seen it at Celtic Park on the basis that we don't have a history of it at Celtic Park. But in terms of influence, I mean, I don't have a massive influence, and I can say to you that I can personally change things. But what I can do is I can act as a conduit, if you like, for people to give me their specific concerns, and I will raise them, and they will get raised at the highest level at Celtic Park in order that if we feel that there's an issue, we will take it up with Police Scotland directly. So perhaps inadvertently, or you know, in a roundabout way, it is getting escalated.
Okay.
I think I must be maturing, by the way, because I didn't get certs going into Thistle on Saturday. Sunday, they sort of just says, on you go. It was a dog just there, but I was quite impressed with that. It must have an honest face.
Yeah,
there you go.
You've reached that stage of your life. You're no longer, you know, potentially dangerous. You're just a hazard to yourself.
Oh dear. And one thing, John Paul, to bring up, we've obviously got different. I think the Celtic support has got some amazing things going on at the minute, and obviously blowing our own trumpet. That's Hail Media. We've got loads of worldwide free media for Celtic supporters to listen to, and some of the feedback we get for guys stuck in the wilderness in Canada and Australia, and you just keep us going during the week, Celtic chats. It's really good, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got the great work the Celtic Grave Society do, and obviously they've got a big service on Saturday before the game for the founding fathers at Dolbeth Cemetery. So some of the stuff and then the stuff that they done before the Barcelona game, the 125th anniversary at St Mary's, it was just incredible, ran by supporters. And then we've got, I do a wee bit of work, and everything Hail Media is quite involved in it, with the Kano Foundation. And that's another thing I think is incredible, and I don't know another support that does anything like that. So one question I'd like to, what does the club think of the Kano Foundation? What's the views for the upper echelons at Celtic Park?
I've got to be honest and say I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with it because I come along to matches and I see the Kano Foundation branding, and I'm aware through different people of the good work that they do for kids and stuff like that, but it's not something that I've really kind of discussed with anyone at Celtic Park, so my apologies in that I don't really know. That's fine. Answer, but I will. I mean, if it's something that you want me to follow up on and I can deal with separately, then not a problem.
It's something we're very passionate
about.
It's a big job.
Aye, but see what it is. See, over a year ago when I started to get involved in them, they basically had no money left, and it was like the season tickets they buy. It's like 50 kids tickets and 10 adult tickets, and it's like $6,000. So they need to find that money, and it's all supporters' donations, So we've done a bucket collection. One of the guys, Tommy and Joe, two of the guys that run it, and Pat and Big Brian and whatever, there's a few of them. But these guys, I mean, it's just for the love of Celtic and taking kids, all of these kids, underprivileged kids that wouldn't get the chance to go to the games, and anybody, it's available to anybody, just to apply, and they get them a hot meal, they get them a scarf, get them a ticket into the game, and they can bring some helpers and stuff like that with them. So I think it's incredible, and I think it's amazing that it's fans that do it. But about a year ago, they had basically no money left, and they were running because they were keeping going to the same people for the same donations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it becomes a bit monotonous at people, but then we come up with a few different ideas, and it's been going really well. And I think the budget for this year is fine, and I think next year's budget is nearly sorted as well. And through the Hail Media, we've been pushing it as well, and we've got supporters clubs in New York and things like that are doing funding towards it as well. Because everybody, when you go onto their site and you read about it, and it's just an amazing thing, that these guys, obviously it started off with a guy Martin Kane in Australia, but they kept the brand on, and it's just about taking kids to the football, and essentially that's all it is, kids that maybe don't get the opportunity, and it's sort of creating the next raft of Celtic supporters. And I just think, see for a club, I've always asked, I'm not really involved, and I'm not in the committee or anything like that, but I've always wondered why Celtic, as an official, why they don't do more for them, because guys like Tom Boyd, he's there at everything. He's one of the patrons, and as you know, Tom Boyd, he's one of the greatest ambassadors Celtic's got at the minute. He's involved in loads of stuff. A Jemmy a guy, and he's Celtic daft, and he just bleeds green and white, and guys like him, he puts out his own time in this. But I just think Celtic as an official thing, because I think the Kano Foundation, like the Ty Tims, it's one of these things that Celtic should be pushing this and saying, look what our fans have created, and this is a thing that's just created by fans for fans, and it's just out the hard work and perseverance of guys putting their own time in and getting very little. They're getting smiles on kids' faces, and that's all they do it for. But it's just, I think Celtic, they should be grasping stuff like this more and sort of pushing it and saying, look what our fans have done, and maybe throwing a strip in a week or something like that and saying they put that towards a raffle. I don't know, just something like that.
I mean, it's a very good point, Jason, to be honest with you, and as I say, excuse my ignorance, but I didn't really know an awful lot about, other than the fact that I do see on a Saturday the branding, and I know that they take a lot of kids along, but it is certainly something that I'm happy to pick up when I go back into Celtic Park to find out a bit more about what we can do to support it.
That's the thing that people want. They want a guy like you that can bring directly the information to the club, and that's
Sure.
it's very important. It's important for us to have you on a show like ours. Somebody just sent me a message right on Twitter saying, "Well, who was it? Wade Italy at Wade Italy on Twitter?" Some message asked me, "Does anybody at Celtic Park listen to these podcasts?"
I don't know, to be honest with you. I do.
The players.
The players. So we're responsible for all the good football. That's fantastic.
Well, one thing I was going to ask you, John, and it's something that people, since you're going to come on this show, people have said to me on numerous occasions, and I think it's been ongoing since Jim Kennedy was doing your job. The European travel. You've moved from one travel partner to another recently. I mean, what's the overall view of the club on this? And is it going to change anyway? Because a lot of people feel that a lot of the ordinary fans are being priced out of European travel because you inevitably need to go official club channels to get a ticket. I mean, is this ever going to be resolved? Because I think you're probably in your 15th travel partner in the last 20 years. So, can we see any major changes coming in this respect?
I think that there's a good chance that you will, Paul, to be honest with you. Everybody knows that we had a relationship with Thomas Cook over the last couple of years. That ended in the summer there. So we don't actually have a travel partner as such, and that the deal that we had with Thomas Cook was favourable to the club in terms of the money that we earned from it. There was revenue obviously associated with that deal. What we've done at the moment is we've partnered with TUI or Thompson's to get us through to January and see where we end up there. But it's a very, very short-term deal. It's not massively lucrative to the club. In fact, it's not lucrative to the club at all. And there's no real money in it, to be honest with you. I mean, club's not really making any money off the charters that we're doing at the moment. We did the one to Milan, and I know at 335 people said, well, it was expensive, and it was expensive. I accepted it was expensive at 335 for a day trip, but I can honestly say that there was no profit in that for the club at the time. Obviously, it's in September, so it's still part of summer. So planes are expensive to charter, and then you've got the taxes and everything else that goes on board. So there was nothing in that, and I think that you could probably see that in terms of some of our competitors, because they obviously didn't run any trips. They pulled their trips, so we were the last man standing, and we kept it going. In respect of Ajax, again, nothing really in it other than a service, to be honest with you. But I think what we would like to do is, we understand that there's a grading system, there's A's and B's and C's, and we know that there are some people that were able to book onto the trips. Because we didn't fill the trips with A's and B's, then we can't, after putting the money up for the aircraft, we'd stand to lose quite a considerable amount of money. So we have to make sure that we're filling the trips, and if people aren't taking the priority window and choosing to maybe go independently, then we have to offer it up to people in category C, D and E, just to make sure that we're not throwing money down the drain. In terms of what happens next, after we play Barcelona in Barcelona, I'm not absolutely sure. I think what we would want to do is offer a service where we attract more of the people that are going independently, and we need to understand why people decide not to go with Celtic. Why do people... Is it price driven? I'm not entirely sure.
Just price, because I'm one of these guys. I wouldn't go with an official charter unless I had to. So I'll go independently because it saves you a fortune.
Is that is purely price driven, Jason? Yeah,
absolutely. We're going. It's 150 quid to Amsterdam and 50 quid for our hotel, so it's 200 quid.
Sure, understand that. I think from our point of view, then these are the kind of things that we need to understand. Is it price driven? Is it purely because it's official and people maybe don't want to go official and they want to go do their own thing and have an extra couple of days? Should we continue to kind of push the Celtic travel brand on the basis that people will never use it? Well, I say that, but then you look at Ajax, and obviously we've got three charters and people still wanting to go on it, so there clearly is some kind of demand. But we want to try and make sure that we're making that appealing to the people that go regularly. There's another argument that's been put forward recently, in that should it just be away games or European away games that count for European matches abroad, or away European games, sorry. Should it not be a case that all games are taken into account? And again, I'd be interested in people's thoughts on that. So, if you're going to Inverness and Ross County and Aberdeen and Kilmarnock and Motherwell, but you can really only afford to maybe go one European away trip, should you really be excluded from that? I don't know. And I'd be interested in people's thoughts on it, because at the moment it runs purely on the European away games that you've been to. So you could have been to the last 8 European away games, but you maybe know any domestic games.
Yeah,
so,
my mate's only missed. He's only missed one away European trip in the past 8 years, but he lives down south, so he doesn't go. He's got a season ticket, but he doesn't go to loads of domestic games. But he gets to every away European game, so he'll be raging at me for saying this. But I would rather it went in every game. Just Celtic game. How many games did you go to? So if you get into category because you went. If you go to all domestic games, I don't think it's fair you're excluded for going to Europe because you couldn't afford it.
Well, the other way of looking at it as well is, say for example, recently we played Morton in the League Cup with 15,000 there. Well, we said it was triple points, and it counts towards your away games, and it counts to your away games in Europe. How many more people would have came to that game?
Quite a lot. See another trick that the club's missed as well. See when you're selling the Champions League package, see to non-season ticket holders.
Yep.
Why don't you add 3 league games on it? Add three league games that you won't sell out, and you'll still sell the Champions League packages. And see if we qualify and get to the last 16, you better make sure that you add 3 league games onto for if non-season ticket holders want to buy a ticket, they need to take 3 league games as well.
Absolutely, it's a good point. And in terms of the Champions League 3-match packages, why maybe did we not offer the people that bought a Morton ticket and said if you buy a Morton ticket you get priority?
Exactly.
So, these are things that we need to be a wee bit smarter on, to be honest with you. And they're good points, but I'd be interested in terms of people's thoughts as to whether or not, because home games, people maybe go to like 20 home games a season, 21, 22 home games a season, don't get any benefit for it.
Hello?
Don't get credits for it at all. So that's a point that I think we need to consider. We need to be incorporating the entire support, because you're getting big games in Europe, small allocations, and realistically, if you've bought a season ticket and gone last 8, 10, and fair play to the guys that have gone to Europe and supported the team. I'm not decrying them in any way. But what I'm saying is there maybe a case to say it should be all games?
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things somebody said to me today, John, was the fact that as a season ticket holder, he felt there was no incentive whatsoever to buy extra home tickets as a season ticket holder, and that if he was to buy them, he would be paying exactly the same amount as somebody who's a non-season ticket holder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if you were to say £26 for a United game, but if you're a season ticket holder, you want to buy extra tickets, £20. There's an incentive right away for people,
Sure. I think that's the point, and I mean the other thing is I made the point there about like double and triple points and stuff like that for home games. But as we all know, for SPFL games on a Saturday and maybe League Cup games on a Wednesday night, it's hard to get people in. So we should be using all of that as much as we possibly can, so that people see a benefit for going. Because otherwise, it's easy for people at the moment not to go. It's easy to find a reason not to go. We need to be giving people reasons to go.
Yeah.
See another thing we've discussed on here as well. Like we've got quite a few mates in New York and stuff like that, and they go to the baseball. So let's see if you've got a New York Mets. They offer packages, like you can buy a full season ticket, which you get every home game, right, which is over our standard. But they also offer like 4-match packages and 6-match packages. And see if you buy a full season ticket, you get benefits with that as well. So maybe once you get one ticket a year, you can get into a lounge or something. You maybe get an offer. You can go into the club shop and you can spend up to £300 and you get 40% off all items in the shop. Up to say there's a limit of £150 you can spend or whatever. So I think Celtic need to be proactive and say what can we package up to sell that season ticket to make it more attractive to people. And I think things like that is like, because there is plenty of lounges at Celtic Park. So maybe saying to yourself, right, if you buy a season ticket, you get one game a season that you get into a lounge. Yeah. And you need to apply maybe 4 weeks beforehand so that it's not oversubscribed. But just things like that, you need to be proactive and think of ways of making it appealing to people.
Absolutely. See, just before I answer that, do you mind if I just take 2 minutes and I'll come back to you in 2 minutes? Is that okay?
Nah, we're not happy with that. You're either in or you're out.
2 minutes. I promise you'll be back in 2 minutes.
What we're going to do here is, right, we're going to have to open the lines now at some point. I think we've gone through enough of our stuff. I mean, obviously, Paul, there are messages, the questions you have. something's up with this with the Skype sound or what it is. It keeps going on and off.
Is it you? Because I was ready to shout at my daughter. She'd be on that FaceTime. So
it's not.
Is it you? Then?
It's definitely me. But I mean, I got this new super duper internet. It's not super duper. I don't know what the problem is. Can I just take this moment to promote something? Is that okay? I just want to.
You're not telling everybody your Christy Moore news.
I'll tell you at the end because I'm going to play that song last. I just want to say that there's a guy that I know. He's involved in the Ringsend Irishtown Celtic Supporters Club, and his name's Tony Owens. A smashing guy, and he's holding a remembrance run for his son Arthur, who was stillborn recently, and he's having a remembrance run in the Phoenix Park the 10th of November. It's a 5k run or walk. Himself and his partner Claire will be involved, and in the next few days I'm going to try and put together a little piece to kind of promote it here on Hill Media, because Tony's a great guy. He does a lot of hard work to promote Celtic, and just kind of want to put that out there. Is that okay?
Yep.
So anyway, the Christy Moore news, we'll bring that up now or what?
Yeah, tell the listeners.
Anyway, right.
I have to be back. Sorry about that.
Right. We've moved on, John. We've moved on.
Sorry.
Anyway, here, we're just trying to fill time. Anyway, if anybody knows, the lanes are now open. But I'll tell you what, we'll leave the Christy Moore news to the end. How about that?
Right.
Go for it.
Okay, this song. Anyway, so we're back in the mix.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I think the point you made was really... Oh, sorry, I just cut across.
No, on you go, mate. Carry on.
The point is, I think that we as a club need to recognise that there are people that support Celtic from all over the UK and Europe and everywhere else, and it's recognised now that not everybody can buy a season ticket, because not everybody can come to games week in and week out, and it's obviously a big financial commitment. So one of the things that we are looking at for next season are different packages, so various different packages. I spoke to some of the guys in Ireland recently as well, just about what they would expect in terms of what they would expect to pay and what benefits they would expect to get on the back of that. But maybe 4 games or 6 games or 8 games, because there was a good few years ago, but we used to do a 10-match package for supporters that lived quite a distance from Celtic Park, and this is maybe something that we're going to have to reintroduce, just to try and get guys interested in coming to games again, because we do accept that it's very, very difficult to pay for 21 games in a season and maybe only get along to 5 or 6. So the point that you make in terms of tailoring it to meet the expectations and the needs of people.
Good. Yeah. No, at the end of the day, it's as you say, it's a work in progress, and I've no doubt the people in the charge of Celtic have got the best interest of Celtic at heart, but you obviously can't please everybody. But it's good that you're there and you're coming on here and you're willing to take calls off people. So at the end of the day, that's excellent, And it's everybody. But we all want Celtic to succeed, We're all just normal Celtic supporters. And you're just the one that's in the firing line, I suppose. To be honest with you, I wouldn't take your job, because I don't know. See when you love something that much, I wouldn't want involved in it, because just in case something went wrong, I don't know.
Your experiences in the ticket office, though, John Paul. I mean, how has it given you a real sort of, an insight into the Celtic supporters, like, and how many different types of people come through the door?
Say it again, Joe. Sorry, what do you mean?
So, I mean, like in terms of dealing with fans. I mean, obviously the reason you have the job is what I mean. I mean, you're used to dealing with fans. I mean, you're the manager of the ticket office, yeah. Yeah. So in terms of dealing with fans on a regular basis, and the different amount of people that come through the door, the different types of people that come through the door, I mean, you're probably in a good position to actually get the pulse of fans. But then again, if fans groups are getting, like Celtic. Even my wife said it today. She said Celtic fans. They all just get along. They're a very cohesive bunch. And when they get together, they develop, a real pulse and a real heartbeat to themselves and the supporters clubs. You know what I mean? Like, one supporters clubs won't be the same as another supporters club, but they'll all get along anyway. You know what I mean? So a guy like you, who's been the manager of the ticket office, obviously has, a lot of experience dealing with different types of Celtic supporters. All, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, like in my old role at the ticket office as well, so you kind of looked after various different sort of corporate and premium and semi-corporate areas within the business as well, and obviously like your standard season tickets and there was a whole host of different people from all different backgrounds as well, from different parts of the country, from Scotland, north of Scotland, central Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh, East Coast, Ayrshire, north of England, south of England, Ireland, north of Ireland, south of Ireland. But, see, everybody's got different needs and wants, and it's just about being adaptable and trying to recognise, what suits one person doesn't always suit another person. But as a club, we can't be... we can't offer a service that just is, that's what it is, and take it or leave it. We have to be flexible, we have to be adaptable, we have to recognise that different people have got different wants within their sort of Celtic support and experience, or I think that's probably the best way of putting it, but everybody is looking for something different from Celtic in terms of coming along on a match day. We just need to make sure that we're able to adapt and be flexible as much as we possibly can. And if that might be for tickets, that might be for parking, it might be for disabled access, it could be for a whole host of different things. We just need to make sure that we're all encompassing and we're not excluding anyone and we're not giving anyone a bad experience. Everybody should have a good experience of coming to Celtic Park.
Here.
Listen, people are in the chat room and there's a lot of questions being shouted. I'm not in the... Sorry, my daughter's walking around. Say hello to everybody. This year.
Hi.
What do you want, honey?
Hey,
Sorry, Mum, you forgot about that.
That's okay. By the way, what was I saying there? There's a lot of questions in the chat room coming up. If you want to ask a question to John Paul, right, call us up, right? Because I can't keep talking to people because Harper's not here. I'm missing my right arm, as you say, Jason. Right? So he's not there to give you wee notes and say, here, ask this question, ask that question. If you want to talk to John Paul, call up. Right, call up. That's what he's on here for. And in fairness, that's his job.
Exactly.
So call up and ask him a few questions, please. We call this the HomeBhoys phone-in show. You know what I mean? Nobody's phoning in. Well, obviously Jason can't phone in.
By the way, just to Tara, on Sunday it was the Maryhill Food Bank. It was the collection. So I met the girl on here last week, Tara, from the Maryhill Food Bank. She was telling us all about it. So I actually met her before the game on Saturday. So we went and got her shopping before it, and we met her. So it was great to meet her. And Big Jim for the Celtic Grave Society, he was out with his resplendent in his T-shirt, his Maryhill T-shirt. So I think they done really well. And the community centre outside the stadium looked as if it was rammed with food. So that was excellent. It was good for the Celtic.
I know they got a lot of feedback and a lot of support from Twitter and all the various different fan groups and various different sites, and it's encouraging. The sad thing is that obviously in this day and age that we have to do food banks.
Exactly.
Hello.
Exactly. But no, it was terrible. She was telling us a story last week, and it was amazing the story she told. But obviously, you're right. It's absolutely ridiculous at this day and age. That's what we need to do. But at the end of the day, that's the situation some people are in. It was good to see people rallying around and doing their wee bit to help them.
Yeah, I mean, I had her on last week, and she was absolute dynamite.
She was
dynamite, absolute dynamite. Listen, here, okay, I'm going to have to address something here that's happening in the chat room. So people want to ask us about 0-hour contracts. I mean, I honestly, that's a phrase that I haven't heard. I probably have, but haven't paid attention. Can you just elaborate on that for us a bit, John Paul?
It's a difficult one for me, Joe, to be honest, because I don't know a great deal about it. I don't know what departments or who use 0-hour contracts at the club, to be honest with you. So I've got to be honest and say that I don't have a lot of information on that at all. I genuinely apologise, but it's not really something that I know a great deal about.
It's come up several times here on the chat room. I'm just trying to keep
I think, Joe, what people probably are meaning is there's resolutions coming up at the AGM for the Celtic Trust regarding 0-hour contracts and Celtic implementing the living wage for staff. I know John's in an awkward position, can't he? But we often get told Celtic are more than a football club. I mean, how aware are Celtic of these kind of demands and the fact that, in the area that they're currently playing football in, we're rising to about 52% extreme poverty. I know the club are doing some initiatives regarding the charity fund and all that kind of thing. But how much more can the club push into these kind of things and trying to influence the conditions that actually create the need for things like food banks? And would it be something that the club would be interested in doing, whether it be implementing living wage, stopping the 0-hour contracts, or just trying to affect the livelihoods and lifestyles of the people in the immediate surrounding areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly something the club is alert to and alive to, Paul, to be honest with you. You know that obviously you've covered it in respect to the AGM. There's some resolutions coming up which the club have obviously put their responses to as part of the papers that have gone out to the shareholders. It's probably difficult for me to see any more in terms of what or add to what the club has already said on it. What I think will probably happen on the 15th is that when the resolutions are raised at the AGM, the club will probably go into more detail in terms of elaborating in what they're doing in this respect, and maybe give a wee bit more detail and a wee bit more insight into why they've chosen to go the route that they've gone. The one thing that I would say, and again, it's very much a case of, you know, it's down to trust and whether people believe you or not. But the people that do run the club do have a social conscience. And I think that as long as they can do something on behalf of the club that's the right thing, then I think that they'll do it. So I think time will tell over the next couple of weeks where that one all ends up, to be honest with you. And as I say, from my own point of view, I can't really add any more in terms of what the club have already said in terms of the resolution. But as I say, I do believe that over time and over the piece, the club will do the right thing.
I mean, is that, you know, just assuming I'm making an assumption, is that perhaps one of probably the most frustrating aspects of your job, that, you know, the right intentions are there, the right people are there, but you just need the time to kind of implement this kind of stuff and get things moving?
Maybe to a point, but I think probably from my own perspective as well, you have to understand what the club will have reasons for putting forward the answers that they have. There'll be economic reasons, there'll be perhaps other things that I'm not maybe considering. There are other things that get done behind the scenes privately that maybe people aren't aware of. I'm not entirely sure, Paul, to be honest with you, but a lot of it comes down to trust, and it comes down to whether or not, you know, we trust the people that run the club on a day-to-day basis. And from my own perspective, then obviously I do. I think that, you know, we've got the right people in place. That the club is performing well. It's successful on and off the pitch, and I think we have to just continue to trust the people that have taken us to where we are at the moment, and trust that they'll continue to do the right thing. And I think they will.
Can I cut in here? We've been joined by our first caller. Who's there?
Hi Joe, it's Tony Cassidy. How you doing, man?
Tony, how you doing, buddy?
How you doing, lads?
Doing good. Good to hear from you, mate. Listen, you have a few questions for John Paul.
First question is it John Paul or is it John?
It's John Paul.
Alright, John Paul, good man. First of all, John Paul, thanks a lot for coming on, man. That's very kind of you. Take your time, you know, that's really appreciated. The lads have been running this show for about 5 years, and anybody who turns up for the club and helps out and answers some questions, that's much appreciated, you know, so thanks a lot, man.
Not a problem, pleasure, not a problem.
Good man. John Paul, you said just a few minutes ago that the club have got a social conscience or something like that. The people running the club have got a social conscience, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping, I'm pretty good that they do indeed. Now, I don't agree with that, because you said there that, you know, social conscience. Peter Lawler has been paid he's received a payment of £999,000, man, just recently, you know. It's £5.20 or something for a Prime Bovril. It's £400 or something to go to Amsterdam. I mean, the big man's taking £999,000. We can get a guy in there to do this job for like maybe £200,000 or £300,000 plus a bonus, 100,000, 400,000, so that's a saving of £500,000. Now, you might be wondering why I'm mentioning this. You as a supporters liaison officer, he's your boss, and you can only say so much, and I fully appreciate that, man, you know. So, fair dues. The main reason I mention it is because it's the supporters are not happy about that, man. Supporters, you know, and you're coming on there saying, no offence, man, but you're coming on there saying you don't know about Birmingham 0 hours. I mean, we've been speaking about this for about 6 months or something on here, you know, and there's 15,000 followers on the social media. We've had about 500,000 downloads, you know.
Yeah.
And, I mean, no offence, man, but our club really needs a major shake-up. We need to support the Green Brigade a heck of a lot more. We need to back the campaign to get rid of this criminalisation. We need to price a pie in Bovril, man. We need to get that sorted, man. Melly's boys has been on here for a long time. Last year, he's done a survey, man. He's put a survey, he went through a whole load of fans, you know.
Yeah,
Put a survey out. You know, I mean, and then Celtic TV, and see when you meet Tam, sorry, just to finish off, just for a wee second, please, John Paul. If you don't mind, see when you meet Tam Donnelly tomorrow, can you give him a big shake his horn, and say, Tom, thanks a lot for holding together all the supporters clubs in the United States of America for such a long time, building up the grassroots of fans. Sorry we as a club haven't done enough to help you out, pal. But we're gonna rally around it. Anything you want, Tom Donnelly, you can get, man, because you deserve it. You and all the clubs over there, and all the clubs across the world, you know. And the guy who ran the tifo, who the heck ran that tifo a few weeks ago against Barca? Is that guy still employed at a club? That was an embarrassment. You couldn't even read the lettering on the stuff, man. The Green Brigade did that off to a T last year. Off to a T. So much so that the club were selling the thing, man. Making plenty of money with it. Now, I'm going to stop going on and on for a wee second, John Paul. Obviously, give you a chance to come back and all that stuff. But, man, come on, you know. Are you there? There's a buffer between the fans and the board. Or, there's the questions, you know.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot in there, Tony. Obviously, fair enough. But John Paul, you want to come back on that, mate?
Well, the first thing I would just say to Tony is, do you think the club's unsuccessful at the moment? Do you think that we're not doing well?
This is a point I want to focus on as well, because it's being missed. We need guys who have got money to be on the board. We need money. We're not kidding ourselves on. We want to be a Champions League team. We need big money for, Dermot and, anybody can help with that. Tom Allison or your man, the billionaire,
Dennis O'Brien.
Aye, Dennis O'Brien, all these guys. We need that money, of course. And we need top guys like Peter Lawwell to do the job as best they can. Fantastic. Totally in favour of that kind of stuff. But I wish these guys would just take a step back for a minute. I was speaking about earlier. There's absolute quality out there, Try and stand shoulder to shoulder with the fans. Don't drive a boot on a big fancy motors all the time and all this. Man. Take a look at what the fans are desperate for. We want to get back to times of being a club together, brother Walfred and all that kind of spirit, man. So, I mean, the living wage. I mean, come on, it's. In answer to your question, Jay, I think clubs run poorly. In terms of the living wage, not only poorly, John Paul, but absolutely disgracefully, shambolically. But in terms of Champions League and getting through the stages and all that, Neil Lennon, the team, 4-4-2, whatever, all that stuff, we're doing alright on the park, and obviously that's the main thing for most folk, But we shouldn't overlook the other issues, which we're more than a club,
Absolutely, I don't think the club does overlook them, to be honest, Tony. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said the most important thing is obviously what's happening on the park. That's the reason that we go to the Celtic Park. But I mean, the club was founded for the reasons that we're all aware of in terms of helping poor people in the East End of Glasgow. And I still maintain what I said earlier on. I think the people that run the club do have a social conscience, and I think that in the fullness of time, if you trust the people that run the club, they will do the right thing and do as much as they possibly can to help people, not just only in the East End of Glasgow, but all over Glasgow and all over Scotland. I mean, the club's got a number of initiatives going on through Celtic Foundation, through Celtic Charity Fund. So there are a lot of things and a lot of good works that the club does do. I think it goes back to the point that I said before in terms of trust. You either trust the people that run the club or you don't. But I work with the people that run the club, and I know that they do have the best interests of the club at heart, and they will over time do the right thing in terms of the points that you make before it with regards to whether it's the living wage or whether it's the 0 hours contract. I think from in the 15th of November there's the AGM. The club gets the opportunity then to put their case forward. I believe that it will put forward a case that makes sense, and it's just really about listening to what the club has got to say on it. Nothing that I can really add at the moment, to be honest with you. That's already documented and they've made their points, but they'll elaborate on it on the 15th and we'll see then in terms of how it comes out.
I mean, you say, John Paul, that they're going to put forward a case that makes sense, I mean, they've written a response back to the fan resolutions, Resolution 10, 11 and 12. They've written a response back, and as far as I know, certainly in two of them anyway, they've said, that's unnecessary. Our fans don't need to put that resolution forward, it's totally unnecessary. Mm-hmm. I mean, who are they to say it's unnecessary, There's 29,000 shareholders, Celtic fans, 29,000 of them, and only about 2,000 ever vote at the AGM. I recommend that we try at least and get a minimum of double that, at least up to 4,000. We need to proxy our votes to the Celtic Trust if possible, so we're back to these resolutions that the fans are putting forward, I mean, it's commonly known, and Jeanette was on here previously, she stated clearly that the Celtic Trust have been known historically to reject the nomination of Dermot Desmond re-election every year. It's just the nature of the meeting whereby directors are they're resigned annually and re-elected annually every AGM, whatever, So this year there's a number of directors who are being re-elected, and certainly historically the Celtic Trust have always, just as a matter of principle, said no, we reject the reappointment of Dermot Desmond because he's been an absent landlord, various reasons, but obviously they're not going to win the vote because all it takes is about 3 or 4 of the directors to step up and say, no, we've got so much percentage and we could just wipe you off the floor and all this kind of stuff. So that's why the whole notion of an AGM just being a big talking shop is, that's a sad thing as well. Why should people all come together and it just be a massive talking shop,
I think you're making a very good point there, Tony, and I think a lot of this, we spoke about this several times. I think when we started this podcast, me and Harper went to what's now referred to as a dog and pony show, and we had Peter Law and Neil Lennon and some players arrive at the City West in Dublin, and there was a commitment made there by Peter Law personally, saying that they would talk to supporters clubs and they would try to see if they could subsidise, specifically then at that point in Dublin, Irish supporters clubs. And as far
correct,
as,
Joe, that's correct. I mean,
and as far as
I
I'm
talked to some
concerned,
people last night, they were saying that the dog and pony show is at least supposed to be every 2 years. I mean, that was several years ago,
I know, as far as I'm concerned, that never came to pass. But I don't know, but it could be one of those things that's in the paperwork. I don't know. I mean, but I don't know. John Paul, have you, or has anybody else got an opinion on that? No?
I mean, from my own point of view, I think it was the road shows maybe that you're talking about there, Joe. I know that the club went out a couple of years ago and obviously tried to canvass support and stuff like that. I mean, from a personal perspective, again, Paul made the point about in terms of how much you're empowered and what you can possibly do. But I mean, from my own point of view, I've done a few Q&As and went out to a few clubs and answered quite a number of questions in terms of what's happening at the club on a day-to-day and how the club's running. Certainly something that I don't have a problem doing. I'll tell people, in terms of what's happening in a day-to-day business. Okay, I can't necessarily change things per se, and I'm not empowered to make the changes. But again, I'll go back to the point. I mean, obviously Tony's quite passionate about his beliefs in terms of the way the direction the club's taking. Point I made earlier on is it would be easy to be popular, and I can think of 2 or 3 people within Celtic at the moment that could make themselves, they could grandstand it by going up there and saying, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll promise you this and we'll promise you that, and they'll get a standing ovation and everybody will love them, but they won't be able to deliver the things that they're promising. And we don't need to look too far away to see how where that ends up. If you look at the other side of the city at the moment, how many people have been there in the last few months, in the last couple of years, that have said, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'm going to be the man that will take the club back. Where are they all? It looks as if they're all going to end up back where they were a couple of months ago. Is that where we want to be as a club? It's easy to say things that will make you popular, but in terms of delivery, you've got to be able to make sure that you can deliver them. And sometimes running a club like ours, with the fan base the size that we've got, it's a global institution that we've got. You're not always going to make this.
Exactly, John Paul. I mean, you're correct. It's not easy. We just want transparency. That's basically all we want. People to be straight up and honest. I mean, one of the key points is it's not a knock on yourself, but is your SLO position, is that just a buffer between the fans and the board, so the board can just fob everything off? I mean, that's the question. One of the other, Resolution 10 concerns yourself. It's talking about a working group coming together to review the corporate governance of the club, potentially also involving the remuneration committee in terms of, the role of the SLO. Would we have a fan representation somehow on the board, or it's basically a small working group to have a discussion over the 6 months or a year prior to next year's AGM, reporting back to that, to just analyse and see what benefits we could, what things we could bring in to improve the club. The corporate governance of the club. If you don't mind, John Paul, I'm just going to finish up now because I know there's a few other people hoping to phone in. And again, I do reiterate, John Paul, I'm not getting at you personally now. I want to thank you for your time. But one question I have is practically in relation to myself. I asked you about 6 weeks ago, or maybe 2 months ago, via Twitter, just there was some painting required up in the Lisbon Lions, up in the corner of the stadium, up the top level. I was up there one night, the paint was falling off the walls near running about the food stands and that, and you said that you would pass a message on to try and get the guys to paint the place up for the fans who go up there on a regular basis. Did that job get done at all? That's my question.
I've not been up to check, Tony, to be honest with you.
No bother, man. Just to highlight. I know it's ongoing, but...
By the way, I just want to say, me and my brother are here.
Alright, jump on, alright, lads.
Alright, cheers, Tony. Thanks very much, mate. Just to follow up on that,
Take care, guys. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Me and my brother are here, and we are painting machines. John Paul, just by the way.
I pass on to the maintenance team, and the guys are generally pretty good. I mean, we've had a few issues with seats and broken seats recently, and generally always got them fixed for the next game. So I'd be surprised if it hasn't been done, but I'll check it out with you and find out.
Can I ask a question, John Paul? Something I've been thinking about. I think it's been ongoing for a while, I would say. But see, the players. I mean, I just think fitter players in general a lot of the time are like prima donnas now and stuff. They're out of touch with normal society, obviously with astronomical wages and stuff. But that's fine, that's part of life. But do you think the players do enough, like with supporters functions and things like that? Or is that just... Because do you think that should be a prerequisite in a contract? If you sign with a club like Celtic, that you must attend X amount of supporters functions? Because I don't think they do enough nowadays. I just think it may be the same players that do it all the time, but I just don't think they do enough. I don't know what your views are on that.
Again, I mean, it would be a personal opinion more than anything, rather than a professional or a club position. But from a personal perspective, no, I don't. To be honest with you, I was down at Everton a couple of weeks ago, and I seen that their players need to participate in at least 4 fan events a season, and if they're picked or selected to do an event, they have to go. They have to go irrespective. So it's difficult. Well, I mean, I don't really know any of our players now, so it's not like when it was in '93 when I first came in, and it was Tommy and various different people were in about, Peter Grant and a lot of local lads, Paul Wickstay, John Collins and Charlie Nicholas to an extent as well. But they were all boys that grew up and knew what Celtic was all about. And when Tommy was the manager, he made sure that everybody went along to supporters functions. Times have changed now. I mean, you know yourselves, and it's been spoken about tonight in terms of the salaries that some of the lads earn now, and I don't know, maybe they're not in touch with reality anymore. You see now that it's very seldom that players will stay for more than 2 or 3 years. Scott Brown's done well over the last few years, and he stuck with the club. But I mean, if you go through the team now, how many players are really there? 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years? Not that many now. So
yeah,
maybe
I agree
they don't
with
have
that,
the same feeling in that respect in terms of getting out. No, I was just going to say it, but it's difficult to tie them in now. It's difficult to tie them in and say, you're going to have to do this and you're going to have to do that, because ultimately they've got their own views on it, they've got their own time, they've got their own families, and maybe just take the view and say, look, it's not for me, I don't fancy it. I don't know if you can make them do it. I don't know that personally, honestly, this is just a personal opinion. This isn't a club position at all, but maybe you can't make them do it anymore. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but going back to your original question, I would like to see more in terms of a presence for the players. I know they do a lot of stuff for kids, and they'll go out to hospitals and do visits, and they will do a lot of stuff that goes unseen. So maybe I'm being unfair, but I think that back in the day when with players turning up at supporters functions and stuff, I think we need a bit more of that again.
Absolutely, we spoke about that many times, and I told a story on here once of a friend of my wife's is partner or wife to a guy who used to play for Dundee United back in the 90s, playing Celtic Park, got skinned by Reggie Blinker, which is embarrassing, right? And he said that when he played for Rotherham, he said it was in his contract that he had to attend a certain amount of supporters functions every year, right? And he said you would end up in the middle of nowhere bowling with like a special needs group, He said, but you had to do it. That was your job. Like, it was in your contract. You had to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, and that's Rotherham. Like, in fairness, he did get to meet the Chuckle Brothers. So I mean, he didn't make out too badly. I mean,
how are you doing, guys? You hear me okay?
Oh, Stephen, sorry, I forgot you were there.
Oh, the Stephen, it's a Sunday name. We've got that outrageous.
I completely forgot you were there. I just got caught up in my brother's looking at me here, right, and I'm trying to run the chat room. Told you I'm lost without Harper. Right, we have been joined by our second caller, the prodigal son of the HomeBhoys show, Mr. Stephen Monaghan, the parrot.
I used to be a mad radical to the great Tony Cassidy. Come on,
You're still a mad radical.
Thanks for coming on. I enjoyed hearing you.
I'm going to sue
Get the great Willie Mailey's graveside. You were fantastic that day, mate. Well done. Hope you see you Saturday if you're available. It's just a few points, John. I've got the guy with the heat bigger than Gary Colwell, mate. You can't miss me. It was just a few points actually to compliment what Tony said. Unfortunately, and this isn't personal to you towards you, JP. It's just I'd have to agree as a fan with everything Tony said. The only thing I think that's Champions League standard at Celtic Park is what our chief executive gets paid and my police bill. And both are fit miserably in recent times with performances on and off the park, mate. Reference to everything basically I'm about to say is it's stuff that's been put through the Celtic Trust. I mean, they released a statement tonight and they showed the list of UK companies that actually pay the living wage. Now there's Lush, the bath bomb company. Now a company that makes bath bombs can afford, as a UK-wide company, can afford to pay the living wage with no 0-hour contracts. But more importantly, we've actually got registered charities like subsections of Age UK and in the South East and South West of England. And that's charity organisations like we started off as. And I respect your job, you're in there as a separate entity. And this is, I say, nothing to do with you, but surely in your workplace, you're getting in there every day. And what you get paid, you don't get paid enough due to the interaction you do on social media and coming on to events like this. But surely as an employee at Celtic, everybody should sort of know what everybody's going on. I mean, we're supposed to be this Celtic family thing. People's walking in that door below the living wage, they're on 0-hour contracts, and we see these shiny suit people walking in the door. Some of them, obviously not yourself excluded, and the playing staff and the coaching staff, but there's a lot of people getting a lot of good money there for, personally, I think, not doing enough. I mean, the lads have made the fantastic points Jason said about the merchandising issues when Celtic played Manchester United. Now, that was a blip that should have been addressed. It wasn't, unfortunately, after Real Madrid. And all these points like the catering contracts, this is stuff the club are doing, taking absolutely no initiative and waiting until there's a tidal surge from fan bases and social media sites to basically holding them to ransom. I mean, there was a failure of duty of care. One of your supporters was actually on our was attacked by two Ajax fans within a quarter of a mile of the stadium the other night. Now, our club are very quickly and happily to release statements saying health and safety of duty of care to our fans. I've not seen Celtic actually go to task by releasing a statement saying we want answers to why we paid X amount of money and our fans were not looked after outside our stadium. And as I say, these points are nothing to do with you, mate. But the questions I would like maybe to ask you, John Paul, would be the £100 off the season ticket. Will this continue next season, or was that a one-season gesture?
It's not been discussed yet, Stevie, to be honest with you. So at this point in time, I'm not absolutely certain. Obviously, we'll be looking over the next month or two as to what's going to be happening next season with the season ticket renewal campaign. So I couldn't give you a definitive answer either way at this particular stage. I thought it was a great offer personally, and I think in the current climate it's obviously something that I think that most fans would certainly welcome if we continued it for next season.
Okay, that's great, mate. I mean, this one's primarily for you. I've got a few mates that are Barnsley season ticket holders, and they travelled down to Bournemouth about 6 weeks ago. And they obviously probably a respective journey similar to Celtic going up to Inverness or Ross County. And they had ex-Celtic player Jim O'Brien as a Barnsley representative. He was standing meeting the Barnsley supporters coming off their respective travel to give them a voucher for a hot drink for a game as a thank you for travelling. Now, we've got the biggest travelling support in Scottish football, and as you say earlier on about rewards for going to see Celtic, they absolutely get nothing in reward. And I mean, they're obviously it's out of Celtic's control what other football teams charge us for us to go and see it, but for me the supporters buses don't get anything. We see the club promoting companies like the Scottish Bus Company saying come and see Celtic and we'll give you a percentage off your travel. The club do nothing to implement supporters travelling by saying to a supporters bus, right, we'll give you all £50 as a one-off as a season to help to reduce the pricing, mate, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair point in terms of what's happening with away supporters at the moment as well. It's been well documented what's been happening in England, where all the English Premiership clubs have been almost ordered, if you like, to take £200,000 out of the money that they're paid through the broadcasting rights to facilitate away supporters to get them to go to games. I mean, there's been a 10% reduction in the number of supporters in England that have been going to away games, so quite obviously they're feeling the pinch a wee bit, and what they're doing is they're providing free transport, or they're giving money off away tickets, that type of thing. It's something that we have picked up on over the last month or two, and I couldn't say for certain that we'll definitely, what we would do, but it's certainly things that we will discuss with a view to maybe doing something for next season with regards to away tickets. I mean, one of the things that's been raised recently as well is the fact that you've got 50% of the SPFL clubs now actually doing the tickets themselves. So for Partick Thistle at the weekend, you had instances where people that are not even season ticket holders that can buy tickets for away games. So I think it's important that we try and do what we can to try and get those tickets back to Celtic Park for reallocation as well, and make sure that people are getting rewarded through their attendance at Celtic games for some of the bigger games. One of the concerns that you naturally have is that if we end up maybe going to St Mirren, for example, to win the league, who's all going to end up getting to the games? You could go to the games all season and end up not getting any recognition and maybe missing out. So that's one of the things that we're looking at the moment is do we try and get the tickets back to Celtic Park, and then if we do, what happens next? Do we instigate some kind of travel club, if you like, whereby people are joining and through that you get a list of benefits? Not entirely sure what that would look like at the moment, but as much as anything, it's really just to give you an indication that these are the kind of things that we are thinking about. We're thinking along these lines and how we can replicate what's happening in England, albeit on a much tighter budget, if you like. But we are trying to kind of look at different ways that we can improve what's happening with Celtic fans and going to games away from Celtic Park.
I appreciate that. Just it was my last point, lads. Before I go, if you don't mind, it was just that obviously the Celtic Trust have just re-energised today the campaign about the FAC, etc. I was just wondering what Celtic's. Obviously, you can't answer this, John Paul, yourself, but maybe get back to people by tweets or contact Celtic Trust. What to see that the actual club's stance is actually on this football criminalisation bill, when we're seeing more and more of our supporters actually being chastised and alienated. And as a football fan, you mentioned a football team that used to play in Glasgow and their reincarnation across the road. They seem to have a carte blanche, have been able to do what they want, whereas your supporters, fellow fans to me, they're nothing more and nothing less, but they're getting the Hawaiian 5-0 knocking their doors in at 6 in the morning sort of thing,
No, listen, it's a good point, and first and foremost, I certainly don't get apologies for the particular team across the road, although I do know that a number of their supporters have suffered similar circumstances, and quite a number of them have been picked up recently as well. So, just for the sake of a balance, they are getting it as well. I think the overall issue is the Offensive Behaviour Act, to be honest with you, and the club's position is now is what it's always been. The club is opposed to the Offensive Behaviour Act. The club's against it, and it's stated that on a number of occasions publicly. To be honest, it's written to the Scottish Government detailing its objections. The club have attended several meetings, if you like, and they believed initially that the legislation would be reviewed after year one. Subsequently, being informed that it would be reviewed after year two. But in the interim, what's happened is that the club has been involved in various different consultations. And again, we've continually highlighted our opposition to the bill. I mean, I think the club's position is already on the Celtic Trust website, that anyone can see that. But the club is in opposition to the Offensive Behaviour Act and will continue to be in opposition to the Offensive Behaviour Act until such times as it comes up as a legislative review. We will continue to take part in any discussions or any consultations that we're invited to through the Scottish Government, but we will continue to stress our opposition. We are against it, we will continue to be against it, and we will be against it until such times as the legislation is overturned.
I appreciate it, that's a great point. It was just for me as a fan of the club, and I know the Celtic Trust might be a bit partisan and run against the grain of what Celtic, the people running Celtic at the moment do, but I mean, we're at a time where the Celtic Trust have got approximately 8,500 Twitter followers, where Glasgow Celtic tonight broke 188,888 fans. Now, call me old-fashioned, I grump, but I don't want to see somebody who's an X-Factor because he's a Celtic fan being retweeted on the timeline. I want to see the Celtic Trust legislation to get rid of this act put on it, and I know you can't retweet a lot of Celtic Trust stuff, but I'd just like to see a more socially aware timeline, and maybe I would start following it again, mate, because it's one direction or it's the X Factor. It's not about what to me is fundamental about the club, and as I say, I'd congratulate the club as I finish off here. The £5,000 to the Mary's Meals was fantastic. Mary's Meal, beg your pardon. The Mary Hill Food Bank was a fantastic gesture. And let's hope it's just the start of more to come at Celtic Park. And listen, thanks very much for your times, guys, and thanks very much for your patience, John Paul. And I'll see you on Saturday for that little birds, mate. All right. God bless, buddy.
Bye-bye. I'll be there. Thank you.
All right, Stephen. Gentleman, sir, thank you very much. And we'll see you again in, I don't know, Easter, probably, when you come back. Anybody else wants to call in? Feel free to call in. We've probably got another 25 minutes left in this show because my wife's making a nice carbonara and I can't wait to eat it because I'm starving. Somebody made a point there about the Behaviours Act. Glasgow Road in the chat room made a point of saying that, what they said was, would an official statement to Parliament make a difference to the Offensive Behaviours Act from either Celtic, I suppose, or Celtic fans? Would that be an option, do you think, John Paul?
I'm not sure, Joe, to be honest with you, because what I've picked up so far is the club's original belief, as I understand it, was that the act would be reviewed after 1 year.
Uh-huh.
On following that up, it then became apparent that it would be reviewed after year 2. So I'm not sure that any kind of statement would make any kind of difference at the moment. There's a number of different surveys taking place at the moment, independent surveys, where fans and people connected with our club and various other clubs are being asked their opinions about the act and the legislation. So there's work getting done in the background, but I'm not sure that anything in terms of a statement to Parliament would make any difference at the moment. I think that we're working to a specific timeline that we're going to have to follow through. I'll tell you what is interesting, that I picked up something today on a website from another Scottish club, not us, and it's certainly not even a Glasgow club, but again, they were speaking about, they attended a meeting earlier on this week in Glasgow in relation to the Offensive Behaviour Act. And I'll read you a wee bit. It's just one paragraph from it that says, whilst there was much opposition to the legislation in the room, there was a general feeling of, it's here now, what do we tell our fans? The response from the police was that the tactics of policing football games will not change, just the manner in which people could be charged. Mostly their advice was, if you think it could be offensive, just stay away from it. So it tells you that it's not just our fans that are obviously experiencing the sharp end of this particular legislation. I think the bigger issue is football fans generally, and it's up to people to decide whether or not they think it's a fair act. From a personal perspective, I'll go back to what I said earlier on. I'm not even sure what the act is, and I don't even know what's legal or illegal when it comes to going to watch football anymore. So I think as much as possible, we'll have to all demonstrate our opposition to the act. It feels like quite an unjust act for football fans. But as I say, that was from a website from another club in Scotland, and not Glasgow.
Let's make no bones about it, though, John Paul. I mean, it is an Orwellian type act.
Say again, sorry?
I'm saying, that's not beat around the bush. I mean, it's a very Orwellian type act. It's like, watch what you're doing or you might be in trouble. That's kind of going, hold on a second, we've been doing this for years. So why all of a sudden is it a problem? I know, and I'm not trying to defend anything or say, oh, you should be able to do this, do that. But I mean, when it's like saying freedom of speech, but watch what you say. Hello? Did you hear me there? Sorry, lad, did you hear me?
No, sorry, I kind of wanted to say.
I heard that.
The act is more or less, like telling people, you've got freedom of speech, but you should watch what you say.
There was an interesting one earlier on in the year where certain songs were deemed to be potentially offensive, but nobody was quite sure. But some of these songs were being put up as a test case by the Crown. So it was effectively what it was saying to you was, if you sing these songs, you might be committing a crime, but we don't really know yet. We'll tell you when you get to court. Now, I mean, this is a country we're talking about. This is legislation in a country that wants to be taken serious. How could that possibly be taken seriously? But that's a fact.
Insane.
So I
do.
I think it's strange. It's strange to say the least.
I mean, John, do you think that if perhaps the club were more vocal? I mean, we saw in recent years the late Paul McBride was very vocal in defending Celtic in certain issues, and we heard John Reid even say that we'll be speaking without fear or favour any more. I mean, do you think that if the likes of Peter Lawwell or the likes of Ian Banky or the chairman was to actually come out, that it might apply the kind of political pressure that's perhaps needed? Because clearly, you know, Celtic are against it and that, and we see the statements on the website and all that kind of thing. But how pertinent is an issue to the people within the club when it, in reality, it's the supporters that is being affected?
I think it's pertinent, Paul, to be honest with you. I think they're absolutely in tune with what's happening at the moment. I think one of the things that I kind of highlighted before is that there's a number of things that happen privately, and there's obviously a reason for that. I think what you've got to remember is that Celtic carry huge influence within Scottish society, and it has to act responsibly, and it has to always consider anything that it says because of the impact that it may have within Scottish society as well. So what I would say is that there are probably quite a number of things going on behind the scenes that we're not always aware of, but the club is aware that it's got a responsibility. It's got a responsibility to its fans, and it's got a responsibility in terms of fairness, if you like. And I think personally that there will be a number of things take place, going on behind the scenes and applying the appropriate level of political pressure to make sure that people are aware of what we as a club and our fan base believe is fair and appropriate. So again, it goes back to this whole level of trust and trusting the people that run the club. I think it's about doing things properly and doing things right, and I think they will do the right thing. I think they genuinely will do the right thing, but as I say, they do carry huge influence within Scottish society, so you need to really be careful in terms of what you're saying publicly.
Okay.
Part of me kind of thinks so sometimes, John Paul, that maybe, Celtic in the past maybe 10 years have been victims of modern football sort of etiquette. Does that make sense to you? You know what I mean? Whereby, a lot of... Oh, another pause there. You back? I'm back. Yeah, you hear me again?
Sorry, you're back on.
We're having sound issues. Skype are taking the piss. I think Celtic might have been victims of modern football etiquette, whereby big, massive football clubs act in a certain way. Maybe Celtic kind of got a wee bit lost. Or the Celtic ethos may have got a bit diluted.
In what respect?
In terms of the club's connection to the fans. If you know what I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's just a feeling that I get, and but the thing is, I'm glad that the club are trying to kind of come back, kind of come back towards the fans. But again, I think maybe one of the gripes Celtic fans have with Celtic at the minute is maybe the Celtic fans are a powerful force and they get a lot of things done and they make a lot of things happen, and it's kind of looking at going like, well, why are we doing everything? I mean, and I don't mean everything in a respect of Celtic do nothing. I mean in respect that Celtic fans go out of their way to make sure other Celtic fans feel part of Celtic. If you get what I'm saying.
I think as much as possible the club tries to facilitate it as much as it possibly can in order to try and just to try and help it. I kind of get what you get. What you're getting at, and I suppose what you're really saying is that it's down to the fans to try and make sure that it's all inclusive and that everybody becomes part of a Celtic experience. Is that really what you're kind of getting at? And the club don't really support that.
I think Celtic fans do more for Celtic than Celtic do, in some respect. In terms of spreading the word and making the ethos known. It's one thing to suppose to put out literature and statements and all kinds of things, but it's another thing to actually be proactive and be on the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, why can't Celtic empower the fans more?
Yeah,
I
exactly,
think Joe's saying that
Said that
there's
to me.
brilliant work going on everywhere. Surely the club can be looking at that and saying, look, we need to empower these people more, because we all due respect. I think that some of the fans that are getting access to the club are not empowering the rest of the support, and perhaps that's something that needs to be kind of looked at.
I'm not sure, Paul. To be honest, I'm not really sure that I would have the answer to that. I think it's an interesting one in the respect that I got asked a question last week through the other podcast that I'd done, where I think people think it's easy, working at a football club or running a football club. I don't know. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be disrespectful to anybody and say that they couldn't do it, but I do think that quite often things get put forward that are generally for the, people think about it about how it best suits them and what would be a good idea for us to do, because that's how they see it. Yeah. There's a wider impact, and it goes back to what I was saying before. As a club, obviously, everybody knows Celtic's a global institution. We've got a worldwide fan base, and quite often, people put things forward to us. People put forward ideas, which with the best will in the world are the great ideas, are the best ideas in the world for them. But when you try and roll it out to the support globally, or you try and roll it out and say, well, how does this impact everyone? You then maybe find that it's only appealing to a small minority of the support rather than the majority. And as a club, you're charged with doing what appears to be the right things for everyone or for the majority of fans. So, in terms of what Joe's saying, and I guess what you've kind of said there is that why don't we do more to empower the fans to give them this? But I don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would go about doing that in a way that it doesn't become unwieldy or unmanageable. I'm not sure what the answer to that would be. I don't know.
Well, I think just in terms of, if you take what Jason said earlier about the Kano Foundation, I don't think anybody at the club could have any issue with that. Therefore, would the club be able to kind of look at that and say, like, let's get these people to run that officially? If the Celtic Trust can put things forward towards Parliament, apply pressure on that, then why not can they make that happen? Various other things, Celtic graves and all that kind of thing. Just the fact. Well, I think correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think what Joe's saying is these great things are already happening. Now, you could argue all day about why the club weren't doing that in the first place, but now that they are happening, can the club actually say to these people, listen, we think universally you're doing a great job and we're going to help you with that?
I think it really comes down to the people that are putting in the effort that they are to ask the club for assistance, and then it then becomes a decision for the club to say yes we can or no we can't. But if something is well intentioned and it's benefiting a big number of Celtic fans, then it would be hard to argue why you wouldn't want to do it. Why would you say, why would you think, no, well, we're not going to support that? So it really it comes down to the fact that if people are working on specific initiatives and they think that they could do with help from Celtic, ask the question. Ask the question, and as much as possible, I'm sure the club will do what it can to facilitate where it can.
Okay.
We've been joined by another caller. John, you there?
How you doing, lads?
Not too bad. How are you? We've got about 13 minutes left.
Hey, well,
I know, bad.
So,
How you doing, Jason?
Jason's not there.
It's gone.
You hear me?
Yes.
no bad, mate. How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, I keep getting cut off, mate. My reception's terrible.
That's when...
I'm getting cut off myself quite. You were cutting off quite regularly.
Aye, it's
I just wanted a quick point to go through to John Paul. It's been a great show. Great show, John Paul.
There we go. Turn off again.
I don't worry about people buying pies and bottles and things like that, but one thing I do worry about is I travel everywhere to see Celtic. I try my hardest to get to all the home games. Take all the tickets that I'm offered. I've got 3 season tickets for me and my kids. We go to all the home ticket scheme, the Lord Champions League, everything. And then I'm going to Amsterdam next week with Jason, and the chances of me getting a ticket for the match are absolutely zero from Celtic. Now, that's the only point that's the only issue I've got with Celtic. As I say, I'm not interested in catering or things like that. It's just getting to the matches.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the point that I made earlier on there, John, was that presumably you then would be one of the supporters that would be in favour of perhaps reviewing what we're doing currently when it comes to away tickets and away tickets in Europe, and it includes all matches and attendance at all games, whether it's home domestic, away domestic, home European, away European, everything gets included, and it all gets thrown into the pot. Is that something that you'd support?
Well, that would suit me. That would suit I go to all the away games, and if you're going through the years, Jason and Paul will tell you that you see the same faces all the time.
Yeah.
And these guys are, I'm not saying they can't afford it, but a lot of the time it's hard for us to get tickets. And the worst thing for me is coming home after a game, sitting in the pub. Their guys not been to a game for 3 or 4 weeks, and they're all booked up to go to Barcelona or Milan or wherever with a ticket and their flight and everything in their bucket, and you're like that. You've got another 2 or 3 home games and an away game to go to before then, and you can't get a ticket.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, and it is something that's come up recently. I mean, as I highlighted before, I meet regularly with the association, the affiliation, the trust, the Green Brigade, and these types of issues are becoming more and more common now. I think people are starting to look at the overall, your attendance at Celtic matches, whether it be home, abroad, domestic, European, whatever it might well be. But if you look at any kind of loyalty scheme, whether it's Tesco's or Marks and Spencer, whatever, what they tend to do is they tend to look after the people that look after them. So the people, I'm not saying that it's something that will definitely will happen, but it's on the table now for discussion. And it's a good point, actually. I'm not really sure. I mean, it even goes back to like my time when I was in the ticket office. I think a lot of it was down to the fact that we used to have guys that just used to like going to European away games, and because of their sort of working patterns or their shift patterns or whatever, they couldn't always get to domestic games, but always seemed to manage to the European aways. And they were, we were finding that they were getting to quite a number of Europeans and spending a lot of money, and then if you tried to combine that with domestic attendance, but perhaps they were shoved further down the pecking order, as it were. And in all honesty, I don't really know how we ended up splitting it out, but we did. We ended up with splitting between European and domestic.
It seems insane, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think, on reflection, again, I'm not taking anything away from quite a number of guys that do go to all the European away games, but I think overall, maybe the time is right now to review it and say, economically, it's very difficult for people to go to European away games now, but, you've got guys that are spending a fortune as well, following Celtic all over Scotland. They may be able to get one European away game, but the way things stand at the moment, they've got really no chance, and it goes back to John's point that unless you get to a game where you've got 8, 9, 10,000 allocation for an away game in Europe, you're really going to struggle. So, we should, perhaps this is the time that we should be looking at reviewing it and saying, who are the people that go and see Celtic week in, week out? And are they the people that should get the first choice when it comes to the big games? I'm only putting it out there now, and I would genuinely be interested in people's thoughts. If you want to, ping it back to me through Twitter at my own Twitter feed at Celtic FC SLO. Just to give me your opinions, because it's one that's been put forward more and more now. I think that people are finding it difficult to get to all the European away games, but when they are going all over Scotland to support Celtic, they find it disappointing that they can't get to the big games, and I can understand that. So, I'm interested in what people's thoughts on that whole sort of initiative would be.
And just to Johnny calling up there, Johnny, are you going to be attending the game next Wednesday? Yeah.
Aye.
Yes, throw your greeting.
Can I just...
your best behaviour then?
I got him on in the Ajax and John Paul, mate.
I don't think I want to hear that.
Here,
I don't care what you want to hear. I'm going to watch the Celtic.
Save yourself in the Ajax fans. Bring your own seat.
Jason can speak Dutch when he's drunk anyway, so
that's the least of what he can do to keep me away.
Here, get him the name of the 6-2 team. We've been joined by another caller, probably our last caller.
I'll move off. Thanks for your time, Dylan, Paul. Paul, I'll see you on Saturday night. Okay, guys.
Will do, John.
John, take it easy, mate.
Look,
We're joined by one more caller, our last caller, because I really have to go to the toilet. Is Stevie? Stevie, you there, Stevie?
How you doing? All right.
Not too bad, Stevie. Yeah, you wanted to speak to John. You have a few questions, few points to make.
Yeah, hi John Paul, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, Stevie. How you doing?
Not bad, mate. John Paul, just to clarify a wee point, me a few guys obviously are meeting the supporters club regarding Ajax and things next week.
Yeah.
Did we at any point contact Ajax about extending our allocation?
Yeah, when the Ajax came over to see us not long after the draw, what tends to happen is after the draw's made, each of the clubs go and visit the other clubs in order that you can look at hotels on the ground and ticket allocations and parking and entrance and exits. So there's a whole piece built around that whole project. When Ajax came over, we spoke to them immediately about increasing the ticket allocation. When we played them in 2001, I was fortunate enough to get 8,000 tickets for the game. That was a massive help. So the first thing that we did was obviously ask them what was the possibility of getting that, but they were never for moving on it, to be honest, Stevie, never. On
that basis, we can understand the point. The last thing Ajax want, especially the manager, I remember Souness comment on the fact of the Blackburn night that he stepped out that night and he turned around and there was a whole bank of Celtic supporters. Now, we obviously don't want 7,000 away supporters. That's a great advantage for us.
Definitely.
As a travelling team. But on the flip side of that, a safety concern, yourself and the club, I'm not blaming you personally, but he's well aware that there's an excess of 10,000 guys going here next week. And there is going to be thousands of our supporters in the wrong end. There's 16 going to my supporters club. We got one ticket.
Yeah, I mean,
and everybody's going to the game. But
I know that, but how do you stop it, Stevie? I mean, I spoke about last week about what happens when we got to the UEFA Cup final, and we said to the police in Seville, we get 60,000 people coming, and seriously, the man nearly had a heart attack, and he's writing down 16, and I was like, no, it's 60.
6-0. And you kept two golden tickets for me outside the ground.
Absolutely. I realise that. No, I mean that was the thing. It was like, it's how do you stop people going? I don't think there will be as many as 10,000 going. I'm only guessing at this. And we did ask Ajax. Ultimately, they're only entitled to give us 5%. And we seen the big football last week or 2 weeks ago when England gave Poland X amount of tickets, and the advantage that people felt that was giving Poland on the night. It was obviously a big game for them. Ajax,
from a common sense point of view, I mean, obviously Ajax are going to know that we're not going to give them a whole bank or a whole end of support. But the flip side of that, as I'm saying, is there is guaranteed there is going to be thousands of your support in the wrong end.
Yeah, listen, there definitely will be a number of fans, and we've highlighted it as well. We've obviously made them aware that Celtic fans will buy tickets for whatever parts of the stadium that they can, and they acknowledge that, they accept that. But ultimately, in terms of common sense, what their view on it will be is, we're entitled to give you 5%. We're giving you 5%. You're responsible for your supporters. If your supporters come, then that's up to them. The police in Amsterdam, the Dutch police, are employed to make sure the order is maintained, that there is no disorder. And Ajax won't see that as their responsibility at all. They'll do whatever they feel they have to do to stay within the rules and obviously give themselves the best competitive advantage that they can.
Can I just ask? Sorry, John Paul, should there be an option for like a supporters sort of section, like a fan zone, like they have in Barcelona?
A fan zone?
Yeah, fan zone, yeah.
I mean, it was somebody raised it today and asked if there was a fan zone. We had planned to have a fan zone in Glasgow, but once we got the intelligence that we did in terms of the Ajax support, we decided to pull it, and I'm glad that we did.
No, I don't mean for us. I mean for Ajax. I mean for Amsterdam, for Celtic fans.
I get that as well. But I don't think there's any appetite in Amsterdam, because I think what it does do is, first and foremost, it encourages people without tickets to go, which is what they want to discourage. So they're basically saying, look, there'll not be any big fan zone, there'll not be any big screens, because if you've not got a ticket, you shouldn't be coming anyway. So I don't think that they're going to want to facilitate that. The other thing is that it encourages a mass of people to get together, so they've got congregation of potentially thousands of people, and then you've obviously got the other issues that can lead to in terms of disorder, or in terms of being an attraction for other local hooligans to come and come and maybe attack that as well. So I don't think it's something that they'll want to do. I don't think it's something that will happen. I think with the best will in the world, given our nature of our supporters, you would think it would be a nice thing, but I don't think that it's something that they'll want to encourage. I don't think it would be a Seville type experience.
That's kind of what I was trying to bring up. I mean, like, should that be like on a case by case basis? I don't know. And Celtic fans, I mean, what you're going to have now, I suppose, is just tons of Celtic fans wandering Amsterdam, stunned out of their nut. I mean, possibly. I mean, but it's just like the Celtic fans, they like to congregate. They're very cohesive. I mean,
again, it becomes an issue for the Dutch police and the police in Amsterdam. Really, it's their city. I mean, again, I think you need to highlight the fact that we're going there as visitors. We can't tell them what to do in their own city or what they should be doing.
Obviously, yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean, but then again, I suppose that's where a guy like you comes in, I suppose, as well. I mean, not that I want to add to your job tasks. Like,
no. And listen, believe me, I have tried as much as I possibly can to try and get us extra tickets. And if in terms of like the fans, if their fans want to do a display, I'm quite sure that's something that again I can get us access to the stadium. I can facilitate a tifo within the stadium, that type of thing. But there's so far that you can take it, and ultimately, again, it goes back to safety and security. And even if Ajax did want to put something on, I'm not sure that the police would support it. I think the police would maybe say, "Nah, it's not for us. We don't want that. We need to police it. We see it as a potential magnet for disorder." So I don't think that they would encourage it at all. Unfortunately, but I'm not sure that the number of fans will go that people do expect. To be honest with you, I think it will be less than people expect. But there will still be quite a number of people without tickets.
But I know a bus that's going, mate, with 40 odd on the bus and they haven't got one ticket. I actually know 2 or 3 buses with 40 odd on them and no one ticket. I think you'll get surprised, mate. See, with the 3 games, this will be by far the biggest attended, because a lot of people haven't been there before, because it was 2000. When I was at the game in 2001, but a lot of younger fans haven't been seen us playing there. Aye, so it's like 12 years ago. So a lot of the new generation, they've been to Milan, they've been to Barcelona. So this is the one, and it's a lot easier to get to and cheaper to get to. So I think you'll be surprised. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to be there. And if you've not got a ticket, you've not got a ticket. You need to still act accordingly, and you need to look after yourself. And you're right, it's their city, so we can't dictate to them the way they. And if they only give us 2,600 tickets, that's all they give us. So it's up to us what to do about it.
I know what Jason mean, but in the same breath, should this not be something maybe even UEFA should look at as well?
Joe, it's their stadium. They only need to give you 5,000. It's not a debate.
No, I don't mean tickets.
Ajax sell it.
I don't mean tickets. Sorry, I mean. I don't mean
stadium, mate.
Yeah.
I don't need to bother about us for.
But I don't mean tickets.
See, the thing is, Joe, Ajax would have brought 10,000 to us. Would we have just given them an extra 7,000 tickets?
No, you're missing my point. I don't mean tickets. I mean fan experience. I mean like a fan zone or something like that. There, you know what I mean?
What did we do for Ajax? Nothing.
I'm not saying we have to. I'm just saying, is it something UEFA may have to look at? You know what I'm saying?
They leave it up to each of the clubs, Joe. And
that's a comment.
We had planned to do a fan zone for all 3 games in Glasgow. Once we got the intelligence that the support that was coming from Amsterdam might not be entirely friendly, given the location that we were going to place it in within Merchant Square, we just felt that the chances of disorder were too great. And we decided to pull it. And personally, as I say, I'm glad that we did, because things could have gone badly wrong there.
I know, but
they're faced with the same situation. They're faced with the same questions. They obviously know. Sorry.
What I'm saying to everybody is, I mean, like, obviously, cutting out the Skype isn't helping this conversation, right? But I mean, shouldn't that be on a case by case basis through UEFA? I mean, there's your link there, police and UEFA. You know what I mean? Okay, can we have a fan zone at this game? Police say we don't think so. Dead on, it doesn't happen. Can we have one at this game? Yes, fine, go ahead. I mean, UEFA saying that they just don't know is a cop-out. I mean, they get paid more money than the Beatles.
See, to be honest with you, Joe, I don't want to go to a fan zone.
I know, but
see when I go to a away city in Europe, the Last thing I want to be is corralled into a big manufactured marquee thing, drinking watery beer and stuff like that. I don't want that.
It's not.
I know, but it doesn't appeal to me.
I'm not saying.
Go and do my own thing.
I'm not saying that it's like, you know, that it's, you know, you have to do it. Like, you know what I mean? We're saying that if it's an option, should it be there? You know what I mean?
It would probably be something that, as part of the pre-ops meeting, it would be considered, Joe. But
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. What always happens in every case, whether it's UEFA or the police or whatever, safety and security will always come out on top, and the police will 99 times out of 100 win the argument when it comes to safety and security. They've got a record. They know the city. The police it in a day-to-day basis, and what they'll say is, we've got an opinion based on intelligence, we think that there could be trouble on this, and on this basis we don't support it. See, as soon as that happens, UEFA will just say, fine, we're acting on the guidance of the experts, it ain't happening, and that's it, and it will be pulled. And that's how it would work, that's the process. Okay. So they'll always take guidance from the experts, and the local police are the experts.
But then again, maybe the experts don't have the you know, I don't know. We're in circles here all night, I suppose.
We've laboured this too much now.
I suppose. Anyway, so listen, we're probably going to close this up now because I need to go to the toilet and my wife's making dinner. And I'm going to watch some horrible chick flick, I'd say. John Paul, I want to thank you very much for coming on here tonight.
Thanks a lot for coming on.
Honestly, I hope it's been a help, and as I said before,
definitely.
I'm happy to come back on.
Another buffering session
later on in the season, and we can sort of look and see what progress, if any's been made, and hopefully we can have some more new initiatives to tell you about. So happy to do it later on again in the season.
Appreciate that, John Paul. Totally appreciate that.
No bother at all, guys.
Listen,
all right, thanks
very much, John Paul. Listen, we'll let you get back to your life, and thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. See you soon. Thanks.
Good luck. That was great. I really enjoyed that. Now it was nice having John Paul on. We're finished.
If I could hear him.
Hang on a second. I mean,
Skype.
It's not my fault. I mean, it's my fault. You taking Harper's place now, are you, this week?
I don't know.
Captain Critic.
Whose fault is it? Skype's?
It's Skype's fault, aye. Listen, it could be spies for all I know. I mean, there you go. It's Bufford again now, doesn't want to say it. Tell you what, here, the best advice I can give you, if you've downloaded this show, is to count to 5 when it goes dead. And pretend I said something funny.
Fucking hell, that's a better stretch.
Right, but then again, it makes no sense to tell you that now at the end of the show, does it? Like? But anyway, listen, we're going to cut this off. And as just mentioned earlier on, a bit of good news for myself. I got a message from Christy Moore recently telling me that he liked the song that I'd written, and he wanted to read the lyrics, and that's all there is to it, I suppose. And it's very, very nice, very confidence booster, and real nice experience. So that's kind of the end of the show. You want to say goodbye there? King of the iPhone giveaway, Jason Higgins. Oh, buffering again. Jason, you there? We're going to say goodbye.
Can't hear him, I couldn't hear him. Right, goodbye, everybody.
All right, Paul's already gone. That's us done. HomeBhoys, any sound issues are completely the fault of the internet, not me. Anyway, it's good to have John Paul on tonight. Hopefully there have been some answers. There's been some insight. All we can say is thank you. And anyway, we're going to play it with that song that I wrote Christy Moore because I'm an egomaniac.
There you go.
It's called Prison with Me, and it's about Paddy Hill, the Birmingham Six. And so there you go. Please enjoy it. Hail, hail, folks. They promised me sunlight and the world in my hands, and they said that I'd be an upstanding citizen.
just lay down and bend to my knees, but they ran out of guidebooks, the rules to being free. And I bet they're gonna make me take this prison with me. This prison with me. Prison with me. And I don't recognize my shadow, and I'm burnt by this wind. And they want me on the radio, and those that want me home again. But I still count the footsteps of the cell I lived in. And I, the man slept below me, was my nearest kin. And I can't pick up this phone now, can't turn on this TV. They want me to come tell my story, tell them how great it must be. But do they really want to know how they make me take that prison with me? That prison with me. Prison with me. Now all the headlines are faded, and my story's well told. They all got what they needed. 16 and 6-fold. They say I'm well compensated, and I can happily grow old. But my soul's been deflated now from my time in the hole. This world's complicated now, and I can't find no peace, and I feel alienated now on the streets with everybody, and I just feel like screaming, 'cause I think I'm crazy. Cause I knew they were gonna make me take that prison with me. Oh, yes, I knew they were gonna make me take that prison with me. Oh, well, I knew they were gonna make me take that prison with me. I took that prison with me. 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 Took that prison with me.